This is the third video in our series that we started off, and we talked about the intro to the entire impactful leadership through executive presence. And the second video is more about executive presence, where Shrija and myself are having a conversation. And I think now we come to the most critical element of executive presence and leadership, which is in the area of communication.
Yes.
Now, Shrija, you've been somebody who's been extremely passionate about communication for many decades now, right? What made that happen? What made you venture into that particular area of expertise?
Okay, when you speak of communication, Charan, it's something so basic to your existence, whether it is written, whether it's spoken, whether it is non-verbal communications, which is your body language. You need it at every point of your life. In fact, when a baby starts, how does a child learn to speak? How does a child learn to, when he comes or he or she comes into the world without knowing anything? By some simple things like studying the mother's body language, studying lip movement. That's how it starts. So everything starts with communication, and then you have your own language. It evolves, it goes on from there. So when communication has been something, whether the written form, because I have dabbled in all of that, written, spoken, body language, I feel it is so basic to our existence. So I've always been fascinated with this topic of communication, and when I worked on it, I realized that it is something which some of us take for granted, but some people really struggle with it. And that's when we talk about why we need it in the program that we both are planning at this point of time. Why do we need an executive presence communication?
Sure. So from a corporate or a leadership perspective or an entrepreneurship perspective, because the whole program is customized to them,
yes,
right? We come across all kinds of people. They're the loud extroverts, and they're the slightly more introverted kind of people who tend to keep to themselves, don't express themselves. Both are effective in their own way.
Yes.
But have you seen any impact of the people who talk too much versus the people who talk less but talk impactfully, and the kind of impact they create, not just in terms of the way people see them, but also the respect that they build up along the way?
Absolutely. See, the thing is, with communication, people normally tend to focus on the speaking part, but there's a very important part of communication, and that's the listening part. It's a two-way kind of a thing, and unless listening is there, the speaking is not going to be effective. But having said that, this what you just pointed out, that people who talk a lot, you can talk a lot, but you don't necessarily have to be effective. At the same time, talking less also doesn't mean that you have to be effective, but it's a right balance of both. And when you listen and you know what's happening, you engage with the person in front of you, which you find lacking in a lot of people today. I've had a lot of people from the corporate background coming to me and telling me I don't have the confidence to interact with my client. I start off, I'm very good, I know, and I get deals done. All that happens, but I'm not happy at the end of it because I feel I've not spoken well. And sometimes when I say something, the other person hasn't understood what I'm trying to say. So all these are little gaps in communication, which is so important. So it's not just the content, it's the packaging, of course, but how you put it across to people. I would say that in something like this, building executive presence, why would communication be important? Of course, we already discussed that it's an important tool, but one is it actually helps improve productivity. How, if you ask me, whether it is individual, the employee, or the boss, when your communication gets better, when you're able to communicate better, obviously confidence levels go up. You are able to know what you are expected to do, and you perform better. And not just the boss, but the people who report to the boss as well. Teams work better with communication. Isn't that what we want? We might say that it's a company, but who makes up the company? The employees. And unless the employees are able to work together, even to work together as a team, you need to have good communication skills. And when you speak of communication skills, trust me, folks, it's a very vast topic.
It is.
At so many different levels. So we might just be able to touch a few, but even touching those few and working on those goes a long way in taking you to that level you want to be at. And like Charan had mentioned in one of our previous videos, It's the impact you leave behind. So when you're not in the room, people feel your absence. Now, what more would you want? Which means that you have that importance or that place in that situation, right? So these are things that help you in your work area and of course in your personal area as well. Now, true, we need to have a line. Again, that's something which we also work on. Not just the art of saying no, but also where do we draw a line when it comes to being professional and being personal.
Drawing boundaries, yeah.
Drawing boundaries, which again is...
It's about communicating. How do you communicate?
Communicating. Telling people that this is what I will do and I will not do something else, and doing it in a nice way.
Absolutely.
That's where we work. See, because communication is, yes, but not just verbal, even your body language, because you may be saying something but your body might be saying something else, and we think the other person, if the other person isn't an expert on body language, how would they know? But it's pretty easy to figure out. Let me give you a simple example. Now, for instance, we don't naturally, there are certain things inbuilt in us which we don't work on. For instance, have you noticed now when you are in a romantic situation? Okay, if you're in romantic, that's something which people love. So this is the example that I usually give. When you're in a romantic situation and you want to talk to your partner, you find that your voice automatically goes down a little bit. It lowers. It's more gentle. It is not abrasive. Yes, it's softer. Nobody taught you to do that. Yeah. Why does it happen? Because you do have it in you.
So you're adapting to the situation and the person on the other side of the...
Absolutely. So when you are working on skills that are naturally in you and you sharpen it, becomes a powerful tool and it helps you. Let's look at presentations that we have today. Now you need presentations everywhere, and a lot of people put up presentations and they just read out what's on the slide. But is that what you are really there for? It's the way you interact and the way you connect with your audience. Why do we feel sleepy during certain presentations? We can barely keep our eyes open. And some of them are so good. However, the topic might be heavy, but that's not the point. It's the way it's put across to you. Are you able to figure out what the person is saying? Are you able to connect? Are you able to ask questions, or are you so clear you don't need to ask questions? So many things that are...
So one thing I've always observed, and I just want to get your thoughts on that. You know, I think some people just like the sound of their own voice.
Oh yes.
Right? And I've seen a lot of presentations where people go on talking and talking and talking without realizing whether the audience is connected or not.
Yes.
And now they're making a presentation which is meant to be for 15-20 minutes. They go on for 45 minutes. Without seeing whether the people in the room are, interested in what is being shared, whether it is relevant to them, whether it's answering all the questions in their mind.
Yes.
And to me, that's such an important part of communication.
It's so important.
It's about how you prepare for the audience that you're talking. You don't have to be a great public speaker.
Exactly.
Right? But even if an audience of 6, 7, 8 people, or you're in a networking event and you're talking to a set of 30, 40 people, right?
Yes.
What perception are you creating? What image are you creating? And that is linked to executive presence, right?
Absolutely.
So in a way, all of it that we're talking about,
everything is connected.
Communication is such an important element of executive presence and the kind of impactful leadership that we're talking
but
about,
having said that, there's one thing we both would like to point out. It doesn't mean that you have to speak in a specific way.
Yeah.
The whole point is to be your natural self, but how do you build on that? Because that's the best way of doing it. You can't try to be something else, because at some point of time it will fall flat. How to be yourself naturally and build on those skills. That's what we
So I think it's about self-awareness, right?
Absolutely.
If the person is aware of, look, these are the 2 or 3 areas where I'm possibly messing it up, right?
Yes.
And somebody external is pointing that out to them, saying that, look, your body language or the tonality or the way you talk about, right? If you could just reflect and do that slightly differently, maybe the impact could be very different.
Yes,
right?
Of course it does.
I'm sure that's the area that you are so passionate about
Yes.
in terms of fine-tuning the styles.
Fine-tuning the styles and working on it in different ways, and which is why we have these tailor-made sessions, because it works differently for different people, right? So
thank you, Shija. Wonderful getting your inputs
Aryan.
as a communication expert, and I'm sure that with our combined experiences of leadership and communication and executive presence, right?
And we'll have a lot of fun doing it together.
Yes. We'll have this as a video series, and we'll keep adding more videos which are relevant to the topics that we're talking about.
On specific topics.
Some of them
also
could be our own, some of them could be somebody else's, but end of the day, we hope that you would sort of subscribe and keep following on all the videos that we talk about, and makes a difference to you.
Yes, do like, subscribe, and we look forward to working with you. And like I said, we'll have a lot of fun together.
Thank you.
Bye.